Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend correct a Chinese woman? We live in a shared house with a bunch of random Craigslist roommates. One of them is Chinese and was sitting at the kitchen table during lunchtime, slurping her noodles and minding her own business. My boyfriend had just come into the kitchen to eat his own lunch, and rather than ask her how her weekend was or any other polite conversation, he instead asked her, "Can I teach you something about culture?" I knew he was going to tell her that Americans consider it rude to slurp food, but this woman wasn't at a business event. She was in her own house and, in my opinion, can eat her own culture's food however she damn well pleases, especially since she was sitting alone by herself first, and we just happened to enter the same room after. So I cut my boyfriend off and said, "Stop." He kept trying to talk to her. "Don't say anything," I said again. He kept wanting to press the issue. Ignoring me, he said, "I don't care, but Americans think it's rude to slurp your food." "Jeff, stop it. Drop it," I said, as she looked highly embarrassed and quietly continued eating her meal. I apologized to her and said, "I apologize for Jeff's comment." And he said, "And I apologize for my girlfriend not letting me talk to you." I don't think it's Jeff's place to educate people who didn't ask for feedback and were just trying to be comfortable in their own home. He thinks I'm being culturally insensitive, racist liberal for not letting him help teach her American customs. Who's being the a-hole here? Well, you bring up some interesting points. She's in a house that she's renting. Granted, she's sharing it with other people, but that doesn't mean that she needs to be taught a culture lesson in the house she's staying at. Maybe if the boyfriend said, "Is it possible you might eat a little quieter," just asking as a favor, that might have blown the whole thing over. But trying to bring it up as some sort of big lesson on culture is just completely the wrong way. I think he really needs to just shut up. Story 2. My son's friend's parents want to adopt him. I, 24 female, am a single mom to my son, Owen, 8. It's been just us since day one. His father isn't in the picture and has been able to avoid child support for years now. Yes, I've tried everything. My own parents disowned me. I had to drop out of high school and have worked a myriad of jobs since then to keep us afloat. We aren't on the poverty line by any means, but we definitely live paycheck to paycheck in a one-bedroom apartment. It's not ideal, and I hope within the next couple of years we'll find someplace bigger. For now, it's our situation. I've raised Owen to know that money isn't everything. We may not have a lot. He won't always have the newest this or that, but we have each other. The two of us are very close. He has never gone without the basics, but I admit he doesn't get a lot of fun extras. I try to save a little here and there to make birthdays and holidays fun, but it's still never anything glamorous. And I think Owen was fine with that. Until recently, anyways. In our area, all the public schools are based on a lottery system, so your child has a fair shot of going to any of them, so long as you put in their name. Our neighborhood school is not great and in a pretty awful area, so I decided to put him in a different one across town. It's near my job, so it works out. Last year, when he was in second grade, he met Charlie. They began hanging out a lot after school, with Owen going to his place. I met Charlie's parents, Nate and Paige, a couple of times before this began. They seemed very nice and supportive. Owen always had a great time at their house. Charlie occasionally came to our apartment, but usually they were at his place. Which made sense. I work, and there's really not much for them to do here, even when I am off. Summer breaks are easy to find care, as there are several free or low-cost camps that I can put Owen in. It's the shorter breaks, such as Christmas and spring, that are harder. Camp space is limited. Spring break of 2022, I managed to just miss registration. Paige is a stay-at-home mom and offered to take Owen for the week. I was hesitant to ask so much of her, but she insisted. He really had a fun time with them. They did a ton of activities, and Paige refused my attempts to pay her back at least some. I couldn't afford all. I admit I did feel a tad uncomfortable with her spending this much on my son, but at the same time, I didn't want to deprive Owen of this stuff. Summer came, and while I did get Owen into camp, he spent a ton of time with Charlie as well. He ended up going on vacation with them. I was again very hesitant, but the experience was something I could never give Owen, and it wasn't too far away. He had a blast. I kept telling Nate and Paige that there's no way I could ever pay them back, and they kept insisting that they loved having Owen around. They told me what a great kid he is. Sweet, respectful. At one point, I really pressed Paige as to why she was so insistent on having Owen around so much. That's when she told me that they never planned for Charlie to be an only child, but all attempts at giving him a sibling just didn't happen. They know that Owen will never make up for not having a brother, but if they can give him a consistent playmate so he's not so lonely, they'll do it. Should this have been a red flag? Maybe, but at the same time I found it sweet that the boys considered each other brothers. I thought it was innocent. Surely Paige and Nate knew the truth, right? Right? This continued for a bit, and come Christmas break of 2022, Paige and Nate insisted that I not even bother to try to get Owen into a camp, that they'd take care of him for me. I was grateful. They ended up getting him more Christmas gifts than I did. I tried to set my pride aside because it was about Owen, not me. This is still when things finally started seeming off to me. I understood a gift on his birthday, and while they didn't get him as many gifts as they got Charlie, it was a lot more than you would typically get your kid's friend. Fast forward to now, spring break was last week, and this time, Paige and Nate didn't just offer to take care of him during the day while I worked. They asked if Owen could spend the entire week at their house. Honestly, it meant I could pick up some more shifts and save up for the bike Owen wants for his birthday. So I said yes. I went to pick him up on Saturday afternoon. The kids were playing out back, so Nate and Paige asked to talk to me. They sat me down and said they love Owen, and he's always such a joy to have. I thanked them profusely for all they'd done for him. Paige suggested that Owen stay a little longer. I pointed out Easter was Sunday, plus school started up on Monday. They said they could take him to school. I felt weird and said, no, it was time for Owen to come home. That's when Nate suggested that Owen stay with them long term. I could still see him, but they would take care of him. I thought they were joking and said, like what, you'd be his guardians or something? They got quiet and reality rushed over me. I pointed out that this wasn't a movie. They can't just get custody. They started spouting some legal stuff about how I could assign them as guardians, and they would help me make this transition smooth. They told me to think about Owen and what's best for him. I told them there was no way in hell I was going to give up my son. I grabbed Owen and we left. I blocked their numbers. Owen has no clue what's going on. I'm keeping him home tomorrow and took the day off work to figure some stuff out. Legally, they can't take him. But now I know what they want, and I'm terrified. I don't want him going back to that school. Do we move? I'm so lost. And I feel so stupid because looking back, all the warning signs were there. I know Owen is going to be devastated losing Charlie, Paige, and Nate. How am I ever going to explain it to him? I think it kind of ties into what you were trying to talk about with him before, that money isn't everything. Maybe kind of weave that into it. They thought that money would be able to bring a new brother, that they could just take him and maybe explain, just kind of be straightforward with him. And possibly, I don't know about this. I don't know if they try, it kind of sounds like they try to convince Owen through Charlie. But yeah, it's put you in a bad situation, I know. And I don't know, what do you think would happen? Let me know in the comments. Story 3. Not 5 minutes early, but 10 minutes late, and it cost him a fortune. Bobby was a CNC machinist, a good one, and the only one. The company he worked for made an intricate product, and his CNC part was crucial. The rest of the product bolted onto it. The finished product sold for tens of thousands of dollars. It took 3 hours to make this piece. Bobby would make 3 a day. He'd make one in the morning, take his coffee break, then make another, and take his lunch break. That ate up about 6.75 hours. He'd stay late to make the third part and make 2 hours overtime. His new foreman turned out to be more than a bit of a jerk. He'd try to get Bobby to do other tasks, and Bobby said no, as he needed to monitor the CNC machine during all stages of the cycle. Foreman complained to the plant manager, who told him to back off and leave Bobby alone. One day, there was a bad snowstorm, and Bobby was 10 minutes late. The foreman was there to greet him at the time clock, with a smeg-eating grin on his face, holding a demerit slip. Bobby had clocked in a minute late the previous week, and the union rules said that if you were late twice within 14 days, you got 20 demerit points. Bobby and foreman got into a bit of an animated conversation, and the union steward came over and said that Bobby had no choice but to take the demerit hit. So Bobby went to work. His shift was 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., but he usually stayed until 6:30 to finish the last part. Not today. At 4:30, he shut the machine down and headed for the door. The next morning, foreman comes over and says that the assembly team is short a part. Yeah, I know, I'm working on it right now. It'll be done in 2 hours. But they need 3 a day. Why didn't you make 3 of them yesterday? Because my shift is over at 4:30, and I went home. What? You stay every night until the third part is finished. Bobby pulled the demerit slip out of his shirt pocket, looked foreman in the eye, and said, "Not anymore." Bobby had done the math. Every week, instead of getting 15 parts, they were getting 10 or 11. Foreman tried to sweep it under the rug, but within a few days, chaos ensued. The assemblers had no core part, and their team went to the plant manager to let him know that production was falling. The assemblers liked it. They got to hang around yakking while they waited for the next CNC part to arrive. Eventually, there was a meeting with the plant manager, foreman, union steward, and Bobby. Foreman tried to throw Bobby under the bus, saying that he refused overtime. Union steward pointed out that, as per the contract, mandatory overtime was only in case of emergencies, and this wasn't an emergency. Bobby had every right to decline the overtime. Foreman lost his temper, started yelling at Bobby and union steward, and was asked to leave the meeting. The plant manager knew he was boned and looked at Bobby and asked, "What's it going to take to get you to work the overtime?" Bobby smiled and replied, "As long as Foreman is my supervisor, I won't be working a minute of overtime." And that was the last anyone saw Foreman. By sticking to the contract, Bobby cost the company a handful of parts worth maybe thousands of dollars and put the company into a position where their lowered production would cost them even more, in perpetuity. Bobby worked a couple of Saturdays to catch up and made double time for those shifts. They hired a new foreman who was explicitly instructed, do not, under any circumstances, frack with Bobby. Right. Snowstorm. He was a minute late. Why was the foreman trying to poke the bear? Why was he? This person knew their worth, and he knew the position that he was in. He had worked with the company for quite a while, and once someone tries to mess up with that, Bobby knew what was up. Like he had done the math long before Foreman tried to mess with him. Story 4. Refused to give the gift you promised my daughter? Fine. I'll take away the gift I got for you. This year, I got a new job that has been paying me very well. Therefore, for this Christmas, I decided to splurge on everyone. In particular, I spent a lot of money on my 9-year-old daughter, and she deserves 100%. She has been pushing herself in school, helping around in the house without being asked, and has always been the kindest soul you'll ever meet. However, when my mother-in-law came early in the morning and saw how the gifts under our tree were much more than usual, she asked why. I told her I bought everyone a bunch of gifts, including her. She then proceeded to ask how many gifts I got my daughter, and I told her about 3 big gifts and 3 mini ones. Apparently, this outraged her because she started saying that a 9-year-old did not deserve that many gifts, and she would be taking away the gift she bought my daughter so that my daughter wouldn't be too spoiled. I told her that was unfair, especially since my mother-in-law promised my daughter a doll for Christmas and my daughter was looking forward to it. My mother-in-law said, "Let it be a lesson to my daughter that in life she can't get all the things she asked for." Look, I understand that, but it's not like I shower my daughter in gifts every day, and if anything, Christmas is the day you're supposed to spoil your children. But my wife told me to let it go, and it was her mother's gift, and therefore she could do anything she wanted with it. And her mother agreed, saying it was her right. And if we're going to play with that ideology, then so be it. I decided to remove the $600 designer bag I got from my mother-in-law, the thing I knew she wanted the most, and gave her a $40 robe instead. Once my mother-in-law opened her present, she was disappointed, asking if that was all from me, because everyone else got increasingly more expensive gifts from me. And I said yes, and apologized if I disappointed her, but we can't always get the gifts we hope for. This left both her and my wife extremely furious, but hey, the mother-in-law got enough gifts. I wouldn't want to spoil her. Yeah, it's his money, his gifts. And he wanted to show how much the daughter meant to her. And the mother-in-law is trying to force her parenting rules on the parents. And maybe it was a little too on the nose, like at Christmas time. Maybe deal with it a little later or something like that. And yeah, you got the receipt. $600 for a bag for your mother-in-law? He was a saint for doing that, really, especially when she's going to act like this.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 5. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change my daughter's clothes at a birthday party? I, 34 female, have 2 kids, 8 male, 4 female. My daughter's name is Aurora. My husband, 36 male, and I chose that name because it was slightly similar to my late father-in-law's and worked well with our last names. It had nothing to do with the princess from Sleeping Beauty. In spite of that, we've had fun with that movie in the past, and ever since my daughter realized that she shared names with a Disney character, Princess Aurora has been her favorite. Our family went to Disney World in July, and while there, we bought my daughter a Princess Aurora costume. She adores it and wears it whenever she has the chance. 2 weeks ago, one of Aurora's friends from school threw a princess-themed birthday party. She encouraged her friends to wear costumes. My daughter wanted to go as her favorite character, which didn't surprise me at all. When we got to the party, the birthday girl came to greet my daughter, and she was also dressed as Prince Aurora. I didn't know what her costume was going to be prior to the party. I got worried for a second, but the birthday girl was actually really excited. She said that they looked like twins. It was adorable. They ran off to play, and I forgot about the costumes for a while. About 30 minutes into the party, I was at a table with some of the other moms when the birthday girl's mother came up to me. She asked if I had brought any spare clothes for Aurora. I said yes, I always bring an extra shirt and shorts for her. She then asked me to change my daughter into spare clothes and out of her costume. The mother explained that she'd hired a photographer to walk around taking pictures of the kids, and was also planning on getting a group photo near the end of the party. She didn't want anyone wearing the same costume as her daughter in these pictures. She also thought her daughter might get jealous since my kid gets to share her name with their favorite princess. Now, if the birthday girl was the one who had the problem, I might have considered changing Aurora into her spare clothes. But no, she was genuinely excited they were dressed the same. It also didn't feel fair to force my daughter to be the only one without a costume in a party full of children in princess dresses. I said no and explained my reasoning to the girl's mom. She insisted for a few minutes, but I held my ground. Some of the other moms started to back me up, and she eventually got up and left. When I went to pick up my kids earlier this week, I ran into her friend's mom. She accused me of ruining her daughter's party by allowing Aurora to wear the same costume as her. She told me she doesn't think she'll ever be able to look at the pictures without being disgusted by my behavior. I thought she was exaggerating, but I'm starting to doubt myself. Our conflict has found its way to the mom group chat we're both in, and opinions over there are divided. Some think having two girls wear the same costume is no big deal. Others think I should have changed my daughter's clothes. Am I the a-hole? What about the daughter? The daughter was ecstatic. She had someone that was twins. She was happy with it. In the pictures, were they standing right next to each other? I bet the daughter insisted that Aurora stand right next to her during the pictures for this. Tried to do that. I bet you that's what happened. And it's just the mom that's just worked up over this. You want to have memories of your child's birthday parties, that's great. But if the child is having fun, what the hell do you care? Story 6. Today I fracked up by donating $15,041 to a poor community in Bangladesh instead of the $150 donation I intended. My wife and I, both 31 years old at the time, moved into a new 3-unit apartment building in San Francisco. One of our neighbors is a 70-something-year-old retired veteran. We'll call him Joe. For context, Joe is a white American guy, and he's also a devout Hindu priest. One day, I ran into Joe in my hallway, and he tells me about this charity he manages for a community in Bangladesh. I wanted to support my neighbor and the charity, so I asked Joe to send me the GoFundMe link. The next day at work, I go on the GoFundMe page and donate $150. Or so I thought. Moments later, I get a text on my phone warning me of an unusually large transaction on my credit card. I'm confused and swipe to open the text message. It says I've made a payment of $15,041 to GoFundMe. And immediately I'm sweating. How could I have donated $15,000? I spend the next 10 to 15 minutes retracing my steps, and I finally realize my credit card starts with the numbers 4 and 1. It seems I had accidentally started typing my credit card information while my cursor was still in the donation box, and just like that, 150 becomes 15,041. Yikes. I call GoFundMe support line in a panic, and when I finally connect with a human, I explain what happened. No need to worry, he tells me. They will initiate a refund of the transaction, which should be processed in 3 to 7 business days. Ooh, that's a huge relief. But then I ask the agent if the charity will be able to see the donation on the GoFundMe page until it's refunded. What do you mean? The agent asks me. What do you mean? What do I mean? Was my response. Will they be able to see the $15,041 donation? Unfortunately, yes, the agent tells me. They will be able to see it until the refund process is complete. I told him that's a big problem, as the entire GoFundMe had hardly raised that much at that point. Surely they'll notice their fundraiser doubling overnight. My plan was to knock on Joey's door the following morning to give him the full story, so that he could pass it along to his contacts in Bangladesh. But when I woke up the next morning, I looked at my phone and saw I had 40-plus notifications on Facebook. Someone had sent me a friend request, had liked many of my old posts, and had sent me many messages. Immediately, I was concerned when I saw that the individual messaging me had a Hindu name, but I never could have imagined what I saw when I opened his first message. The man had sent me a video of himself from Bangladesh, surrounded by dozens of impoverished and hungry people, holding bags of food, thanking me by name, Michael, for my generous donation. A big round of applause for Michael. At this point, I've leapt out of my bed and I'm pacing. Part of me wants to scream. Part of me wants to crack up laughing. I start swiping through the man's messages, and it is picture after picture after picture of poor Bangladeshis thanking me for my kind donation. Literally hundreds of photos of frail, elderly, disabled, and malnourished individuals holding signs with my name. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Needless to say, I couldn't live with myself just donating $150 after seeing how the community responded to the $15,041. I decided the least I could do was to add a zero, so I donated $1,500 once the original donation was refunded. The charity's host was incredibly gracious and understanding, and he explained to me that $1,500 goes very far in Bangladesh for urgent food relief. Ultimately, I think the whole experience was a win-win. I helped a great cause, and I got a funny story out of it. Well, at least no one was mad about it. I thought he was going to be in trouble with his wife for having to explain why $15,000 was going to go bye-bye from their account or something. But yeah, I'm glad everyone was fine with it, and, he was even more generous, and yeah, I would think $1,500 definitely goes a long way, but that's also kind of a sitcom kind of situation right there. It's like, oh, there's some kind of a misunderstanding. It's like on that proportion. What do you think?
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.